In the name of the Father, and the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, one God, Amen. Many happy returns for Palm Sunday. This is a scene right now that I'm seeing that I've been dreaming of for about a year. I hope this will be the state of the church all the Sundays, every Sunday after the feast too. We are continuing with a series about godly wisdom, which we're taking from James 3:17. And we talked about that it's from above and pure and peaceable. And then we started to talk about it being gentle. Last time we did four things. The first thing was we spent some time to try to figure out or to define what really is gentleness. What does that look like? And we talked about many different examples, and it was very important to know what gentleness is, because this is the one thing that the Lord said to learn from him and to imitate him, or to emulate him in this, which is that to be gentle. And then he said that those who are gentle will possess the whole world. So this gets our attention. Okay, like I want to be gentle. And basically we looked at that gentleness. The best definition we could come up with was that it's strength under control. Remember that, the word pratis or praus? And the best analogy for this was a wild stallion that has been tamed. It is still just as strong, it is still just as fast, it is just as powerful, but that power, that strength is bottled up and under control for the use of the master. And then we talked about, okay, how do I begin to practice gentleness in my life? Because naturally, we're not gentle. We are not gentle creatures by nature. The first thing we said is to be understanding and not demanding. This basically has to deal with when I'm working with people who are serving me, or when I'm working with subordinates, when I'm working with people dealing with waiters, cashiers, clerks, anybody at any counter, somebody I hire to mow my yard or clean my house or whatever, that I treat those people with understanding and not be demanding, and to be gentle with them. The second thing was to be gracious and not judgmental. We focused a lot on Galatians 6:1, which is to remember that when somebody precedes me, okay, that means, and fall into sin, first of all, they preceded me. That means them first, me next, okay? Precedes is very important, so that I don't judge them when they fall into sin. And then the second thing is that if they are overtaken in any trespass. And we talked about the analogy of, like, if a lion is chasing somebody and this person is trying to avoid that lion, and eventually that lion catches up with them and bites them or something, and then what do? Look at you let the lion bite you. Look at this bite, look how big it is. You know, and we don't realize that they've been overtaken. This lion has been pursuing them, and the lion is still roaming about, seeking whom he may devour. So I may very likely be next. So to remember that, they were overtaken. And then to do the next thing, which is God came to do, even though we didn't deserve it, and to emulate our God, which is our whole goal is to try to restore such a person in a spirit of gentleness, and to consider as ourselves first, that them first, me later, and to treat this person like I would hope to be treated when I mess up and I'm the one who's been overtaken by a trespass. The last thing was to be kind and graceful. This one we focused basically with the topic of when I differ with people in opinion. There's this, I don't know what to call it, a worse pandemic than the pandemic we're at right now, where people are, it's a hobby maybe, I don't know what to call it, hurl insults at each other back and forth from the protection of a computer screen or a device, and how really a sad state that is. And we're going to talk some more about that today. And we took the example of how, Habibi Yani, okay, if your opinion is different and you think it's totally ridiculous, this other person completely believes in their opinion. It's not like they believe in what you think, but they just want to do something opposite. So treat that with gentleness. But remember, maybe they didn't have the same upbringing, the same background, the same faith, the same company, the same friends. So their mind input is from different sources. So it's not really that weird for them to have a different opinion. And by the way, when was the last time anybody convinced you of anything by being harsh with you or cruel with you? Never. If you really want to get them to see your side, you have to do it in a spirit of gentleness. There's no other way. And this brings us to the second half of gentleness that we wanted to talk about, which is 3 more points on what to do if I want to practice and be a person who lives by godly wisdom, which is gentle. Please pay attention to this one. Number 4, I need to always be teachable. A lot of us agree from an intellectual point of view is that, yeah, none of us know everything. Of course. Do you think you know everything? Of course not. There's so much that I don't know. But we sure don't behave that way, do we? Like, we behave like I know everything. Don't tell me what I don't know. Whatever you say that you think I don't know, you know it, like it's the opposite, right? This is how our behaviors are. And by the way, being teachable is not age-related. Okay, there could be a person who is a teenager or somebody in their 80s and 90s who are super arrogant and as stubborn as an ox, and they won't listen to anybody, and there's just no way you can teach them anything. And there are people, whether they're from a teenager or even younger, all the way to somebody in their 80s and 90s who are very teachable, who are very gentle in receiving and hearing and considering what you have to say to them, who are teachable. So when someone criticizes you, listen. Don't immediately dismiss it. Just listen. See what they're saying. If you want to be growing from glory to glory, maybe there's truth in what they say. When somebody corrects you, consider it if it's true. And if it's true, accept it. This doesn't make you worthless. Okay? If you want to grow and to have more and more worth and value and all that stuff, you have to listen and to consider and to pay attention to it. When someone accuses you, don't rush to defending yourself and justifying yourself. We're all very familiar with James 1:19. Now everyone must be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger. What do you think is quick to listen? Teachable. Everyone needs to be teachable. And everybody needs to be slow to speak, meaning slow to defend themselves or to justify themselves or to explain why what they're doing is right. Just listen. And a person who is gentle, who is living by God's wisdom, who is teachable, will definitely be a person who is slow to anger. King Solomon, the wisest man to have ever lived, said in Proverbs 13:18, he said, "Poverty and shame will come to him who disdains correction, but he who regards a rebuke will be honored." By the way, poverty doesn't just mean like financial poverty. It could be poverty of morals, poverty of ethics, poverty of character, poverty of spirituality. The various kinds of poverty. Okay, it's not just financial. I love that quote that said that there are people who are so pitifully poor, so poor, that all they have is money. So poverty is not definitely not just financial. And remember this, that even though he who was the wisest man on earth, he had a team, he had a group of counselors that he listened to. He would approach them and ask them for guidance, and when they would criticize him, he would listen to them, because he was living by godly wisdom most of the time, till the latter parts of his life. Okay, and when his son Rehoboam didn't listen to the guidance, didn't listen to the advice that was coming to him, he made a mess of things and caused the split of the kingdom. James 1:21, just two verses after James 1:19 that we just read, it says, "Receive with meekness the implanted word, which is able to save your souls." It is able to save your souls. Receive it with gentleness. Remember, meekness is gentleness, and gentle is meek, and meek is not weak. Okay, we talked about that last time. Did you ever think about being teachable? Also definitely comes when I'm reading the Bible, when I'm listening to sermons, when I'm reading spiritual books, when I'm reading from the church fathers. Am I teachable when I'm during sermons? Am I teachable when I do this? Or when I read stuff or hear stuff, what is this? This is 2,000 years old. This is 4,000 years. You can't apply this today. There's no way. This is whatever. And like, we have people who are professed Christians and try to live life Christian as a Christian person does, but they have I don't know what to call it. They treat the Bible as an open buffet. I like this, I'll accept this. I don't like that, no. This doesn't apply. I'll just look away. I'll dismiss it. I'll ignore it. I'll ignore it, explain it away. It doesn't work. Either he's your God or not. Either this is his word or not. Choose. But we need to be teachable if you want to live by godly wisdom, which is gentle. Number 5, I need to live by action and not reaction. What does R-E, before any word do? What does it mean? It's a Latin, prefix that means repeat again. Okay, like return, rephrase, rebuild. Sometimes we look at reaction as when somebody does something and I react to it, but actually that's not accurate. It's kind of respond, okay? But the word react, it means to redo the same action again, redo it back. So when someone yells and I yell back at them, I am repeating the same action of yelling. When somebody insults me and I insult them back, I am repeating the same action of insulting. I am reacting, repeating the act. Reacting simply means allowing others to control me, allowing others to determine or dictate my behaviors. When I react to somebody and repeat what they do, I'm telling them, you're my master, you control me. You determine how I behave. You just say jump and I'll say how high. That's what reacting is. Sometimes we look at reacting as, well, I'll show them. You know, you hit me once, I'll hit you twice. You deal with me with this, you know. Kind of funny that people think eye for an eye and tooth for a tooth. Way back in the Old Testament, it's a little bit side note, but we think, you know, that God was telling the people, you know, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. And of course, he perfected that law in the New Testament. But what the Lord was telling them in the Old Testament is like, only an eye for an eye. Only a tooth for a tooth. Because back then, you poke one eye, I poke two. You break one teeth, I break all your teeth. That was the attitude of the people, reacting. And of course, one-upping it. Imagine, one of the things I really appreciated in Austin, I drive in many cities in Texas. And actually, so far, Ya Rabbi, I hope it remains, but driving in Austin, people are nice for the most part in their driving. But can you imagine if every time one driver cut off another driver, and then this driver reacted, meaning repeated the same thing by cutting that person off or cutting another driver off? Nobody will have cars anymore. Like, we'll just walk or something. Like, it'd be like unlivable. But imagine every time somebody does one of this, the other person, okay. Remember we talked about the peaceable thing, that they're making excuses. Maybe they weren't paying attention. Maybe they have an emergency. Maybe whatever. And I stay like this. Or when somebody wants to come in, I slow down and let them in. Then they repeat this and react this nice stuff. Imagine two conversations. One person yells, and the other person yells back. What's the other person gonna do? Yell again, just a little higher. And then now we're like up to here. Okay? I'm listening to you, you know, like, I am calm. No, you're not. You know, does this sound familiar? Now, imagine somebody yells at you, and you respond with, you go down. They yell, and you go, I'm listening to you. Or, okay, talk to me. Like, just with a lower voice. One of the cool things, if you know anything about me, you know I'm fascinated with the brain and neuroscience and how the brains work and stuff like that. One of the things that I discovered lately, and I'm sorry if you've known about this for decades, apparently it's not a new thing or anything, but it's something that's said in our brains, there's something called mirror neurons. Mirror neurons. And those mirror neurons are God-given to us. Mirror neurons, they help us to imitate the person who's in front of us. You know, God said, weep with those who weep, rejoice with those who rejoice. Mirror neurons help us to be compassionate, to help us be empathetic. And those who have like their mirror neurons are busted, they're kind of like sociopaths, or like they can't relate to other people or feel their feelings or whatever. Now, you can say, well, I have mirror neurons. He yells, I yell back. So what's it? No, that's not how it works. You be gentle. You be strength and the control. They yell, you lower the voice, what's going to happen? Hopefully their mirror neurons will kick in and they'll come down, and now we can have a conversation and get somewhere. Romans 12:4, it says, bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. How appropriate. I didn't time this intentionally, that this comes now before the week where we celebrate someone who blessed those who cursed him. You know what they teach in parenting? Once your children have pushed your buttons enough where you can almost feel the gauge of your blood pressure, you know, going up because they're so ridiculous in how they think or what they say. Once you feel this, they tell you what? Walk away. Run. Get out of the house. Go do something. Just put your hand over your mouth and don't react. Okay? Because whatever you say, it won't be good. because it's out of emotions. 1 Peter 2:23, and I think we'll be reading this also a couple of times in this coming week. It says, while being abusively insulted, he did not insult in return. While suffering, he did not threaten, but kept entrusting himself in him who judges. He said, all you who are weary and heavy laden, come to me and I'll give you rest. Learn from me, for I am gentle. Take my yoke upon you and be like me. So we need to do this same stuff that's written in 1 Peter. By the way, staying quiet is not a reaction. It is an action. When somebody hurls stuff at you and you hold your peace, that is an action. How strong it is. Anytime I could just start blabbering stuff and yelling back and whatever. It is the person who's able to control is the stronger one. Remember Proverbs? Mightier is he who can control his tongue than him who can conquer a city. You can be mightier than Alexander the Great if you are gentle. The last point is treat everyone with respect. Treat everyone with respect. One thing I'm starting to realize is that, because you hear that term, well, respect has to be earned. I agree, but I feel like when we look at respect, we look at it as admiration or aspiration to be like this person, or respecting somebody means I need to like be okay or agree with what they're doing, but that's not what it is. A gentle person living by godly wisdom treats everyone with respect. Everyone with respect. Respecting or acknowledging others can be manifested in many ways. Many ways. The saying communication, tone, and body language is 93% of communication. My tone, the way I smile to a person, the word choice that I choose, looking at them in the face when talking to them. We try to teach that to the children, right? Because now they don't know how to stare at somebody when talking with them. Paying attention to what they say, how you stand, your body posture when talking to them. All this stuff can communicate respect or disrespect, depending on how you do it. There's so many examples of people who dealt everybody with respect. An example, for example, when we read about the prodigal son, is that wonderful father. He treated both sons with respect, even though neither of one of them deserved it. Or when we read about the Lord with the Samaritan woman, he treated her with uttermost respect. Even though she was a Samaritan, he was a Jew, even though she was living in sin, even though she was really rude with him at first. If you pay attention to it in John 4, he treated her with respect. When dealing with blind Bartimaeus, everybody's telling him to be quiet. You're nobody. You just sit there. Don't disrupt the entourage. But what does the Lord do? He stops everything. And he talks with Bartimaeus and he says, what can I do for you? That's treating somebody with respect. We're happy to treat people with respect who agree with us, who think the same way, who have the same lifestyle, who all that stuff. But it's very hard for us to respect people who don't. Okay? How he dealt with children. They didn't let the children come to him, and he said, no, it's okay, let them come to me. He treated the children with respect. He treated the lepers with respect, approaching them, not keeping distance, touching them, and then healing them. That's treating people with respect. One of the things I love, we had a tremendous privilege a few months ago. We had one of the servants meeting on a Zoom meeting with His Holiness, Pope Tewodros. And actually it was a couple of meetings. And each one lasted for like a couple of hours, if I remember correctly. No, 3 meetings. And one of the things that is lovely about him is that he treats everyone with uttermost respect. He said, sir, ma'am, Mr. So-and-so, Dr. So-and-so, even if he's, talking with anybody. He treats people with respect. He's a very gentle man who lives by godly wisdom. It would be wonderful and highly effective if we practiced this wise and gentle respect when dealing with each other, and especially when dealing with each other or with our children, our families at home. Sometimes we're capable of doing this. Sometimes because maybe the motives aren't so great, because I'm afraid I'll lose something, but at home I'm safe, so I feel like I don't need to respect people anymore. Do you say please and thank you to each other at home? Or not? We need to practice this at home as well. So this concludes the 3 points for today. And again, just to summarize the 6 things we do. First, we talked about godly wisdom. that it has to be gentle, one of the attributes of it, and that we defined it as strength under control, like that wild stallion who has been tamed. And then there are 6 things that I can do to begin to practice this, because I'm going to have to work at it. I'm going to have to be intentional at it, because it is not going to come to me naturally, which is understanding, not demanding. When people, dealing with people mainly who are serving me in one way or another, to be gracious and not judgmental. Remember Galatians 6:1, if anybody precedes me and are overtaken by any trespass, if I consider myself spiritual, I need to restore them with a spirit of gentleness, considering myself as well. Be kind and graceful, mainly focusing on when I have difference of opinions with other people. You catch more with honey. You will not convince them of anything and show them the light, per your opinion, if you are harsh and not gentle. Always be teachable. This one's huge. Be slow to speak. That means be teachable. Live by action and not by reaction, because when you react, that means you are declaring that this person controls you and dictate how you behave. And then lastly, treat everyone with respect. May God help us all to live by godly wisdom and to grow into that all our lives, which is gentle. And glory be to God forever and ever.